It's time once again for another episode of Atlanta Legal Experts Radio, broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now, here's your host, Emily Rowell.
Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Atlanta Legal Experts Radio. I am your host, Emily Rowell, and I have a wonderful guest with me that I've known for quite some time, Dusty Branson with Branson Law. How are you this morning?
I'm well.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming this morning. So Dusty is a 1982 graduate of the Emory University School of Law and earned his business degree from Georgia State University. He practices primarily in the area of wills, trusts, probate, and estate administration. In addition to being a member of the Georgia Bar Association, Mr. Branson is a member of the fiduciary law section of the State Bar of Georgia, the estate planning and probate section, the lawyer referral and information service, and the sole practitioner and small firm section of the Atlanta Bar Association, and the real property, estate, and probate, and the sole practitioner section of the American Bar Association. You don't know what you're doing at all, do you?
Quite a roster there.
Yes. He has served as president of the board of the local branch of the American Heart Association, board president of the Southeastern chapter of the AMC Cancer Research Center of Denver, Colorado, member of the board of directors of the Georgia Combined Health Appeal, and has served on the board of the Georgia chapter of the Arthritis Foundation. His office is located adjacent to Lenox Square in Atlanta, and his website is
BransonLawAtlanta.com.
So how'd you get started in all this? What took you here?
I had no intentions of practicing estate law when I first entered law school.
Yes?
However, I had a professor my first year who taught property, and I became so intrigued with the whole concept and idea of trusts, which is what property was all about in the 11th century, where our law started, that I couldn't help myself.
Oh. So
I was swept away and started taking all estate planning and business courses in law school.
fantastic. So you focus on wills and trusts and probate, also estate and trust administration. I've got the most important question that anybody can ask you. Why is it so important that I have a will?
Well, it is very important because it's quite costly not to have a will, and oddly enough, over 70% of the population checks out without a will. I find that people postpone it for some reason or another. Generally, they think, well, I have plenty of time to do it. And that is not usually the case, because if you keep waiting, at some point, we're all going to check out. And you might as well plan for it.
Yes, that's true.
The first and most obvious reason to have a will is it allows you to direct the distribution of your assets to whom you wish. Without a will, state law determines who inherits those assets. Regardless of the size of your holdings, and to avoid lengthy court time and withstand challenges to the estate, you should have a will. With a will, you decide, not the court, but you, who manages your estate. This includes organizing your assets, paying your debts, distributing the remaining assets as you direct in your will. Until your estate is finalized, bills must be paid and any income must be deposited. If the court manages this, your estate will pay fees, sometimes draining your holdings down to nothing. You can use your will to disinherit those who would otherwise inherit under state law if you died intestate, in other words, without a will. Now, most of us aren't real interested in disinheriting our family members, but you certainly can do that in the state of Georgia. Georgia law does allow you to disinherit, except for small provisions, modest provisions for the spouse and minor children. And it's called year support. Initially, you were supposed to be awarded enough money to live on for a year by the court, but it's now within the court's discretion. And you can ask for more in year support. Sometimes you receive it. Sometimes the judge decides that that's too large of a chunk of the estate. even though you can disinherit people, you do need to name your spouse in your will if you have one. You can simply say, I leave them nothing. And all of your children's names plus the relationships so that they cannot contest the document claiming that you forgot them. In other words, we put language in such as, I have 2 children, they're Betty and John, and because of the contempt with which my son treated me during the later years of my life, I hereby leave him nothing.
Wow.
And another advantage of having a will is that if you have a taxable estate, you have the opportunity to minimize or, in most cases, eliminate estate taxes. You make gifts or donations to organizations and charities as you wish, which, lacking a will, the court makes a decision as to who receives your property. That generally excludes charitable organizations that you care about. If you're a single person without children, you may want your estate items and assets to go to close friends and charities. However, lacking a will, once again, the court chooses extended family members or distant cousins that you perhaps have never even spoken to. You can always update your will if you change your mind about anything it contains or if there are major changes in your life. Changes are such as if another child is born or you remarry, you divorce. It's a very good idea to have your will examined to see if there should be any changes made. Also, people don't realize it, but the law in this area changes frequently and rather rapidly. So one should have their will at least reviewed at least once, I would say every 3 to 5 years.
Let me ask you this. I know that there's easy ways to get wills online, and I know that's like nails on a chalkboard when I say that to you. I hear you saying, the rules change, the laws change. It's so important to get it done by professional. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct. I've been practicing law since 1982, and I have never prepared any 2 wills that are the same. You can do things in a will that online forms wouldn't allow you to do, and it's really important that you know what you're doing. I very recently had an estate with a trust, and the attorney who drafted the trust for my clients didn't know anything about estate law or trust law. And as a result of that, he put in language that prohibited their daughter, whom they wanted to take care of all of their assets if they became ill,
Oh, gosh.
from doing everything that she was supposed to do. So when they became ill, we had to go to court, go through proceedings in court to have a guardianship and conservatorship appointed, and it became very costly and expensive. So
Sure.
you need someone who knows what they're doing in this area.
Now, what if you're a single parent with minor children?
That's probably one of the most important situations in which a person should have a will. I had a 30-year-old client once who told me the very best thing she could give her children for Christmas was a well-prepared will. She was a single mom and relatively young, but she was right. She unexpectedly died in an automobile accident 2 years later. It was a great relief to her family that she had thought ahead. A will prevents your children's other parent from seizing financial control of the children's inheritance from your estate or other accounts. A court may appoint the other parent as a guardian of your children, and your children then will be living with them and they'll be caring for them. But a will allows you to establish a trust in which the inheritance of your children will be handled by someone that you select as trustee. That's more often than not a friend or family member, but it can certainly be a financial institution.
All right. Go ahead. I didn't mean
In Georgia law, a minor can only have $5,000, and anything over that needs to be left into a trust that's either freestanding that you've already created, or a trust that you very simply create in your will. And that keeps your former spouse from handling your children's money.
So if you're young and healthy and you're not thinking about getting a will, what would make you need a will at that point?
Well, in particular, if you're young and healthy, you may have a specific idea of what assets you would like to go where, especially if you're young and you have your own business. So with a will, you can provide where those assets go. Instead of going to some family member, perhaps a distant cousin or an aunt or uncle, you can arrange for your assets to be distributed to friends that you name and charitable organizations if there's one in which you're interested.
I think the bottom line of all this is that you're working so hard to create a legacy for your family. And all that money that you work every day, all day long, 8 to 5 or even longer, can just be, when you're gone, can be decided on by somebody that doesn't even know you. So why would you not have a will and have those things for what you want them for?
In my experience, people are afraid to face their mortality. They don't want to admit to themselves that their life is finite. I have someone who first made contact with me 8 years ago, but didn't come in to have estate documents prepared until they discovered that he had prostate cancer and was scheduled for surgery a week later.
Oh, geez.
So we had to work double time to get
Sure.
everything prepared.
You just don't know.
No, you don't. But when someone that you know is lost, say, in an automobile accident or passes away, that often is a trigger for someone to come in and say, I think I'm ready to have my estate documents prepared.
Yeah. So you work with financial planners.
I do. Financial planners are advisors to their clients, and most financial planners will ask their clients if their estate is in order, if they've had the proper documents drafted.
So they're good referral sources for you.
Absolutely.
And vice versa.
And vice versa.
Yes. So it was wonderful to hear everything you know and your expansion of everything. If you will let us know how the people listening, how they can reach you.
Certainly. You can take a look at my website, which again is bransonlawatlanta.com. And there you will find my address and phone number. My phone number is 404-720-0600. And I'm very glad to provide a complimentary consultation over the phone to anyone that has questions about what we've been discussing. I imagine a lot of people out there are wondering, what is a trust? I thought it was only for rich people. But that isn't true, and I'll be glad to discuss it with you. Please feel welcome to call me.
Yeah, and we'll have to have you back on the show so you can discuss trusts.
Thank you. That would be very good. I would be glad to do that.
And that was Dusty Branson on Atlanta Legal Experts Radio. Thank you for tuning in to Atlanta Legal Experts Radio. I am your host, Emily Rowell, and I have here with me Ashley Holland Couch. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for being here. She is with the Holland Entertainment Law Group, LLC. She is the principal at the Holland Entertainment Law Group, LLC, and the Couch Artists. Focus her entertainment law practice on music, TV, and film, and art clients in Georgia and Tennessee. She attended Duke University, the University of Denver, and has completed MBA coursework at Berklee College of Music. That story.
Sure. So I actually started out on the art side. And when I went to college, oddly enough, I had planned to save animals in the rainforest, to focus on environmental law. And while out there, oddly enough, I started working with a nonprofit organization that pairs with the music industry and kind of fell back into the music business that way. Following that, I worked for AEG and ended up getting basically a Rolodex of all of their Nashville contacts. And right out of law school, was lucky to be able to shadow Johnny Cash and Elvis's lawyers. So it was a great opportunity right out the gate to fall straight in. I mean, it's funny when you're sitting at lunch and hearing a story about Madonna calling in the middle of the night. So certainly an interesting time to enter the market in 2008. You know, I would say I took kind of a roundabout path. I have experience in a lot of different legal areas, but I keep falling right back into entertainment. I know that's definitely my true north, and it's a little bit about what I'd like to talk about this morning.
Absolutely. So how do you break into that entertainment law in Georgia?
So this is a question that I get all the time. I would say about once a week meet with either a young lawyer or a law student. I'm, in marketing, which is a lot of what we do, believe it or not, in entertainment law, you hear about disrupting the system. So I've got some ideas for the people out there listening that may want to break in and are not sure how. So the first question that I get is, if you don't already have an entertainment practice, how do you start getting those clients? And more so than any other area where I've practiced, it is a relationship business. I would say the vast majority of my clientele is word of mouth, coming either from other lawyers or from industry people or just chance encounters. So the first advice I can give is get out there. There are a million different organizations and nonprofits and ways to meet people. Please don't let this imply an endorsement of anyone or any group, but some ideas. First off, Georgia Lawyers for the Arts. They're an exceptional organization that basically serves the art community where there's lower income. They may not be able to pay normal hourly rates for an entertainment lawyer, which can get very, very high. So they evaluate the clients, determine who really needs an income-based help. There are free referrals, and those who don't qualify for that, there's a reduced fee paid referral system as well. That's a great way not only for clients to seek entertainment law services, but also it's a great way for lawyers to start getting their feet wet in this area. Now, I certainly would never suggest that you should commit malpractice if you don't know what you're doing. But what I would suggest is finding another entertainment lawyer who doesn't mind shadowing you to make sure that you're doing everything correctly. The State Bar of Georgia does have a sports and entertainment law section. If you don't know any entertainment lawyers, that's a great way to get involved. The leadership is extremely strong. Another suggestion, obviously, I'm very closely involved in the American Bar Association. There's both a Young Lawyers Division, Entertainment and Sports section that I was the chair of last year, and there's also a parent forum. And some of the attorneys with this are literally the top attorneys in the country in sports and entertainment law. It's a fantastic organization, very easy to get involved. We're always looking for volunteers. Great way to get published and also to find a mentor. And that kind of leads me to my next point that I've touched on a bit. But finding a mentor, it's, I think, critical. You can always continue learning no matter what point in your career that you're at, and to give back. Find those that you can serve as a mentor for them as well.
So tell me, in your practice, exactly what do you focus on? Do you do what do they call it? Copyright and all that. Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Sure. So, I think in the old days, you would come to an entertainment lawyer and present a contract you'd already been given, and it was more straightforward. Now I have clients who come into my office and said, I just wrote a song, now what? So it really is a different kind of representation where we are considering things like business strategy and marketing and PR. So the questions are kind of different. You really have to think like an entrepreneur when you're advising your clients, because the scope is different. And I actually read in the New York Times there's something like 200,000 different revenue streams for one hit song. So helping your clients identify those revenue streams becomes a critical component. Sure. But I do also work with copyrights and trademarks. I help register intellectual property. I help clients with all with all of their contracts, which especially in the music business and TV and film can get very complex. About half of my practice is music. As you mentioned, I also am a full-time consultant with Live Nation, handling some bigger deals there, all their streaming music deals, and a lot of our branded content I work with as well with large partners. So, I focus on everything from the brand new artist who has no idea how to get into the market to more higher level artists that have been reviewed in Rolling Stone or that have a feature film.
Sure. So you get mixtapes in the mail? No, I'm just kidding.
You know what? Believe it or not, I do probably more frequently than you would
Really?
than you would imagine. Yeah,
I was joking.
Oh no, that's something that I get. Which some are
so
awesome.
funny.
Some maybe need a little more work.
Help.
But,
Right.
Yeah,
That's so
but you know,
funny.
everybody can use a lawyer. So
Sure.
you know, I encourage everyone to keep trying. And you know, you were asking about Georgia specifically. There are a number of awesome groups that are local. The Georgia Production Partnership, the Georgia Music Partnership. There's a group called NARAP, the National Association of Record Industry Professionals, that has a strong presence here. Women in Film and Television Atlanta. The list really goes on and on. For anyone interested in learning more, I do post a lot of stuff about local events on my social media. Most of it I'm at Couch Lawyer. And feel free, anyone who's listening, to check that. I try to send out great events, and many of them are free or a low cost for entry. So for those starving artists, or like I say, you know, it's funny, I went to law school trying to not be a starving artist. Now I'm just a starving art lawyer. But there are a lot of events that you can get into for a low cost.
So resources for the entertainment industry clientele and their attorneys.
Sure. So that's kind of touching on some of the groups that I was just talking about.
sure.
Georgia Production Partnership, Georgia Music Partnership. I also have not mentioned the Georgia Music Industry Association is another one. All really strong groups. And like I said, they have free events around town. You know, there are lots of film festivals. And I would say most of these festivals, this is great both for lawyers and for clients. I typically leave any kind of big conference, industry conference, with 3 new clients and 3 new mentors. That's kind of
Wow.
my rule of thumb. You know, you can get out there and just talking to people. You never know who you might be able to help, and what can evolve from that. I mean, I see some really beautiful collaborations that have happened by chance encounters, or
Sure.
you know, just asking someone where the coffee is at a conference.
Sounds like you really have to know how to network, and it sounds like you do.
That's the biggest part of it. That is the biggest part of it. I think networking is key, and just getting your name out there, letting people know that you exist and that you're interested in this market, and always learning. I mean, there's a million different publications that come out, blogs. I mean, this is an area where the law is literally changing every day. When I got out of law school in 2008, we weren't even talking about streaming. Now we're not talking about physical records at all.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Wow.
it changes very quickly. It's an area you have to stay on your toes with new technology, but it's a really exciting area. I think, you know, there's a misconception that it's easy just because it's really, really fun. It's not easy, but it's super rewarding if you can get your bearings in this area.
Like, I took out my old CDs the other day, and I started to listen. I'm like, why? I don't even have to do this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it takes up room in my
You
car.
know, I think
Yeah.
probably most of them scratched anyway, but you know, and it gets into even kind of estate questions of who owns your digital content after you're gone. What happens with that huge library of music or of files or whatever it is? So there's a lot of interplay with other areas as well. And this is largely a corporate area. I mean, like I said, it's an entrepreneurship area, so understanding all of those critical components of creating a business really, you know, no matter what level of entertainment you're at, it's always something that you need to be thinking about, how to keep growing.
Sounds like your background and like all the experience that you had to get to this point has helped you tremendously because of all the different things that you have to know, you know, and all the different planning that you do. And it's like you touch on different areas of law anyway within the entertainment area.
Oh, you certainly do. And of course, you get the clients that, you know, have the occasional arrest or, you know, a
that
divorce or whatever else in this area. So it's a great source of referrals from my colleagues who maybe practice in other areas.
Sure.
I send a lot of it out.
Sure. And speaking of, so you would probably get a lot of new clients probably just from referrals would be your number one?
I
or?
do. Yep. Referrals are my number one. Like I said, the vast majority of my business is word of mouth. You know, it's funny. One of my favorite stories about that is there's a musician who I've literally been listening to since I was 12. No joke. And he found me on Facebook. About
wow.
20 years later, he found me and hired me just from seeing me on Facebook. So now he's one of my clients, and he's actually one of my most famous clients. So,
Oh, that's
you know,
so
you
cool.
never know who's watching. It's always important to keep an eye on that marketing.
Is his name Rich Casanova, by the way?
No, he's my more famous client, actually.
Yeah.
That
Very close, yeah. Second, yeah. So you must live like in a very surreal world, right, on a day-to-day basis.
I love working with the
Yeah.
clients I do, watching all the creativity that comes out of them and seeing an idea form into something tangible and marketable. It's a really beautiful thing.
So once again, you're listening to Atlanta Legal Experts with your host, Emily Rao, Rich Casanova here, and we're having a conversation right now with Ashley Holland Couch with the Holland Entertainment Law Group. And so talk to us about, I hear the passion and excitement of what you do, and I imagine no 2 days look the same or sound alike. And by the way, Emily has, for listeners, has already submitted her mixtape over to Ashley, so you're listening a little bit earlier, yeah. So seriously, what's the biggest challenge with your business? Because what you've talked about, it all sounds very, exciting and romantic and so forth. But what's a difficult day for you look like, or what's a challenge?
A lot of what I do is negotiation, which I enjoy doing. I like parties coming together and finding ways that it's beneficial for both. But there's always disparate interest. And so getting into some of these really heated negotiations, for example, I've been in the middle of one with a major network for about 2 months now. My clients have created a sustainable community in another country that's going to be the subject of a reality show. And they've got some pretty specific demands. They've got things they're absolutely not willing to do that, it's been an interesting back and forth between the parties. So just trying to figure out, okay, how can we work through whatever this conflict is? How can we, create a situation where we all feel as comfortable as possible? And then, of course, another challenge would be there is a lot of ambiguity, I think, in this market. People don't really understand their rights and responsibilities. They don't have a clear understanding of copyright laws and to know what paperwork they need to ensure that they're protected. So I think that's a lot of it is untangling things that have happened when clients weren't properly protected from the outside. So I really can't stress that enough. Even if the expense seems a little daunting, having an entertainment lawyer at the beginning when everyone's comfortable and friendly and excited about the project is critical versus waiting till the end when you're not sure who owns what. And now the project has generated money and there's more of a fight. So, getting in, not being able to control things from the outset certainly can present some problems down the road.
So tell me one of your favorite stories.
Oh, goodness. Every day is a favorite story, to be perfectly honest. I've been in other areas of law that it's a little bit harder to stay excited. In this area, even on the worst day, I can respect what my clients have created and what they do. And that's a really beautiful thing to be able to say, man, I'm frustrated with you, but I love your painting or I love your song. Let's keep going.
Sure.
Keeping that motivation up and just being able to help people. We're in an area that can be highly dramatic, but at the end of the day, we want people to keep creating. We want beautiful things to keep coming out of this world and expression. So being able to be even a tiny part of that is my favorite part of what I do.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Will you let our listeners know how they can reach you?
Sure. So my website for my legal services is www.hollandlaw.com. There's no D on Holland. And then my art, which I do have a visual art site as well, is couchartist.com. Like I said, most of my social media is under Couch Lawyer, aside from Instagram, which is @couchartist.
Thank you so much. Again, that was Ashley Holland Couch with the Holland Entertainment Law Group on Atlanta Legal Experts. Definitely deserve to be an expert on the show today.
Thank you so much, guys.
This is Emily Rowell. Thank you for tuning in to Atlanta Legal Experts Radio. I've got Michael Mogul here with me, President and CEO of Crisp Video.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. The Michael Mogul is the president of Crisp Video Group, a national legal video marketing company that produces high-quality and engaging legal videos for attorneys all over the country. His company bridges the gap between video production and video implementation, taking a comprehensive approach that helps attorneys build their brand and attract better cases. He has been featured in Forbes, AVVO, ABA, The Huffington Post, and The Wall Street Journal. You can contact him at hello@crispvideo.com and visit them online at www.crispvideo.com/legal. And would love to find out, where did you come up with the name?
So, interesting story, actually, with Crisp Video. It actually kind of stems from the roots of our company. Years and years ago, there was so I bootstrapped our entire business from the very beginning. No investors, no partners, no funding. Every dollar that we made, we put right back into the business. And years ago, there was a show now canceled on HBO. It was called How to Make It in America. It was like the common immigrant story. And in the show, they had a denim line that these two friends essentially put together. And the name of the denim line was Crisp. So
Okay.
It's kind of a play off that, but also the fact of like how we brand our clients. We have a focus on crisp branding, but
it.
that's essentially the root of it.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So tell me, how do you help attorneys?
Yeah. So one of the biggest challenges that we've seen, so there's over 1.3 million attorneys in the U.S., and what we've found, especially when we first started working with attorneys years and years ago, was that we found that the best cases really went to the best marketers. There was several outstanding attorneys out there, but unfortunately, many times clients didn't choose attorneys based on who was the best attorney. In fact, some of the best ones weren't visible to them. Just this morning, I was speaking with one of our clients in New York. He was doing a search in one of the legal directories, and there's over 4,000 personal injury attorneys just in New York City.
Sure.
So it's an extremely, extremely saturated space, and what we do is we help attorneys stand out, differentiate themselves, become visible, solo and small firms, and essentially compete with those larger mega firms where they can't compete and buy every billboard or every radio ad or TV spot, but they can be strategic in their marketing. So that's where we help.
So are these videos like short and to the point? Are they, where do you put them out on social media, YouTube? Can you tell me a little bit more about the product?
So there's, traditionally when we started, what we've seen with legal video were the late night infomercials, the ambulance chasers, Call Now, all that. And what we found was that the clients that was attracting were, the low-hanging fruit and not necessarily the desirable types of clients and cases that attorneys wanted.
Sure.
So the types of videos that we produce focus more on telling your story, what differentiates you and your firm, essentially not just the what of what you do, but why you do it, and why someone should choose you as opposed to another firm. So most of the videos, they are short form. Most of them go on the web, the 2 to 3 minute videos on an attorney's website, in emails, on social media like Facebook, which has been extremely powerful lately. But it's something that can help when a client is deciding who do I choose to work with. Let's say they do a Google search, they click on 3 attorney websites that come up. How are they to tell those 3 apart and decide who they'd like to work with? And the videos are that differentiator.
So why? What type of challenges do these attorneys have that you are helping them solve with the video marketing?
Yeah, the biggest challenge is setting themselves apart. The perspective of many clients, they see attorney at law, and that's it. They go to every website. It's interesting. I would say this to many of the attorneys. Have you tried to Google yourself? Right? Have you tried to visit your own website, and would you hire yourself? Because from the
I love it.
From the perspective of a client, they see it, and it's very similar. Right? Let's say that they happen. We're talking about, let's say, 4,000 attorneys in New York City just for personal injury. If someone does a search, let's say you're just kicking ass and you happen to be on the first page of Google, well, there's only 10 people that can show up on the first page. And let's say you win that battle and you are on the first page. Someone's still going to be deciding between, who do I work with? So they're checking things like reviews, and they're checking, their website, and they're just trying to decide who do I choose to work with. And what we find is the most discerning clients, the ones who are focusing, typically the highest case values, which means that they want the best attorney, and their decisions primarily based on value, time to really make that decision, and they're going to be vetting different attorneys and law firms. And that's the biggest challenge to solve. There's more and more attorneys every day. Like now we consider it's like essentially 1 for every 256 people, every man, woman, and child, right? It's a lot. How do you compete?
Right. And I feel like a lot of attorneys in general, and that's just from working with them for so long, that they love what they do. They know what they do. They're very good at it, but that's it. As far as becoming a marketer, it's a whole other story. So I'm sure you help them on that,
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest areas where we do help attorneys, because you're right. They went to school to practice law. They want to come out and they want to work with clients and cases. And what we find is that there's this huge burden that they find themselves in terms of being a business owner and having to market their firm and attract clients and cases and have a consistency, and even doing with the intake process. There's so many challenges there that, we really step in to help them tell their story. We do the creative. We come out. We learn about the firm. We help, essentially put together a video that builds a connection, that connects with people emotionally. I mean, it's one of the things you think about. Like if you went around a room of people, let's say it's 100 people, and you said, all right, everyone, state your age and an interesting story about yourself. You probably won't remember all the ages, but you'll remember the stories.
Sure.
And I think that's the biggest takeaway, that, with our attorneys, people are going to remember them, and they're going to feel an emotional connection to them. And if they can connect with them, then they're going to be more likely to work with them.
And it's not going to be everybody, but it's going to be the right ones.
Right.
All right. Again, you're listening to Atlanta Legal Experts with your host, Emily Rao. We're having a conversation with Michael Mogul, the president and CEO of Crisp Video Group. And so everybody has their digital devices. We're on Periscope Live right now. We're on Facebook and all these other social media video outlets, in addition to our audio platforms. But so from the end user, what are some mistakes that you see? Like when you look at a website and you see a video, you're like, you just have to knock yourself in the head, or what kind of what are the don'ts, right? Because you're doing the do's, right?
Sure. Sure.
What are the don'ts?
What are the don'ts?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, we see this all the time. It's funny. We do a webinar every week where we're doing education
Okay.
on legal video marketing. And the last one we did was on the 10 biggest mistakes.
Right, yeah.
So, one of them is, we've seen videos where there's not they haven't identified their audience, right? So they try to be all things to all people, and they worry that, if I practice family law and personal injury and criminal defense and immigration and everything, right? Because I don't want to miss out on any cases. But instead, what we find what happens when you brand yourself as McDonald's is that you miss out on the biggest cases and the more discerning clients, and that people don't want to work with the attorney that does everything, right? The full service law firm.
Sure.
Another one that we see oftentimes is that there's not a call to action. So there's the assumption that it's always going to be viewed on your website, but we find now videos are viewed on YouTube and Facebook, and if there's we've seen videos that don't have a website address or a phone number or any method of contacting the attorney or law firm. And another one I think is not having one focus or one message. So we see a lot of law firms that talk about the experience that they have, the awards that they've won, the charities that they're a part of, just the fantasy football in their office. I mean, everything you can think of, right? But instead of having one clear takeaway and one clear value proposition in terms of we are unique because of, for example, the personalized level of attention that we offer our clients, right? Or the combined 150 years of experience or whatever it is, but just something that does set you apart. So we work with hundreds of attorneys all over the country. I mean, we're based out of Atlanta, but we've now grown because, working with a number of different legal associations, from the ABA to AVO, PILMA, the various criminal defense and personal injury organizations. We primarily work with solo and small firms just across all practice areas. So for us, the reason why we choose that as opposed to the mega firms is we really believe that we can make an impact with the smaller firms, a much larger impact. I mean, we've, for lack of a better way of saying this, we've absolutely changed their life from someone who is struggling and doesn't know where the next case is coming from to now having a predictability and consistency, and now they can be a better attorney because they don't have to worry about where's the next case coming from.
So can you do that? Can you have some sort of stats that say, if I do this, I know I'm going to get this much? And that kind of led to my next question was, is it really expensive? And, when you see the return, it's worth it. Can you kind of explain that?
It's an investment, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is an investment, and this is one of those areas where you get what you pay for. Oftentimes we're not the first option. We many of our clients come to us after they've tried once or twice or two other cheaper options, and now they want this done right.
Right.
But in terms of statistics, at least with us, our average client sees a full return on their video typically in the first 30 days, and then over the course of a year, they see an increase in their average case value of 2 to 10 times. So it's just considering what is the solution worth to you. Yes, it is an investment, but it's not as much of an investment as buying every billboard.
Right.
And then
that's a good point.
The other thing with video that I'll say, just because I feel like that we fight this battle, is that not all videos are the same, and it's very important that this content is produced correctly, implemented correctly, marketed correctly, because it doesn't matter how much you're saving if it doesn't work.
That's very good. That's a good way to kind of end this interview. And just the biggest thing I got from this is you share the same things that I do. I love to have attorneys tell their story, and that's exactly what you're doing. And so kudos to you because they love to tell their story.
It's true.
Yeah.
So if you'll let our listeners know how they can reach you.
Sure. You can visit us on the web at crisplegalvideo.com. It's CRISP. And you can even email me directly if you're interested, and we'll do a full video marketing audit for you if you've produced videos in the past or if you're just getting started with video, what types of videos can help based on your goals. No obligation to work with us at all. We'll create the blueprint and you can decide what to do.
I love it.
You can email me at michael@crispvideo.com.
Thank you. That was Michael Mogul, President and CEO of Crisp Video Group here on Atlanta Legal Experts Radio. And this is Emily Rowell, your host, signing out for today.
Thank you again for joining Emily Rowell and her guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here to share today's